Episode 26. Having an appointment. Zaid Radcliffe finally spent 1.3 million to get Otis and the others out. When they walked out of Azure Percival, the old man hit Otis for the first time. He used the cane in his hand to fiercely smack Otis's back. All of this happened while Julius Reed and Quella Radcliffe were on their way home. No matter how Quella asked, Julius insisted that Sky Reed and Aaron Jackson were friends, which was why they had helped out this time. Although Quella had some doubts, seeing her husband stronger than ever before made her happier than anyone else. By the time the couple got home, it was already evening. As soon as Julius opened the door, he saw his father-in-law and mother-in-law sitting on the sofa. When Knox Ridge heard the door open and lifted her head to look at Julius, her face was indescribably angry. "Where have you been?" she asked with a stern face. The young couple had suddenly disappeared in the afternoon, and the normally obedient Quella had left without any notice, much to the irritation of the elders. This made the two seniors very angry, believing Julius was behind the scenes causing trouble, destroying the family relationship. Quella, understanding her mother very well and afraid she would trouble Julius, hurriedly took the initiative to explain. "Shut up. Did I ask you?" Knox Ridge's face darkened as she rebuked sharply. The more she looked at her son-in-law now, the more displeased she became, desperate to get him out. "It's okay," Julius smiled at Quella, then turned to explain to Knox Ridge. "In the afternoon, after you and Dad went back to your room, the chairman called. The Radcliffe Group decided to treat the employees to a meal to celebrate Quella becoming the project manager." Yes, Quella nodded her head vigorously like a woodpecker on the side. The two had intended to go out for a meal, and when Knox Ridge just asked, Quella, feeling guilty as if she were a thief, completely forgot about the matter of Zaid Radcliffe's phone call. "Is that so?" Knox Ridge looked at Belle Radcliffe and asked, "Mr. Radcliffe, did you know about this?" It was indeed a Radcliffe Group tradition to have a meal out organized by the company when certain family members took on important positions. But how could she, as the mother, know nothing about such an important event as Quella's promotion to project manager? "Don't look at me. I was with you all afternoon. I heard nothing of it." Belle Radcliffe spread his hands, showing he was clueless. "Julius, are you daring to lie to me now?" Knox Ridge suddenly stood up from the couch, grabbing the feather duster from the coffee table. "Mom, it's true. Julius isn't lying." Seeing her mother's fury, Quella quickly stood in front of Julius. In the past, Knox Ridge hadn't hesitated to hit Julius with the feather duster, but from today on, Quella would no longer stand by idly. "Look at you. It's only been a few days, and now you're turning your elbow out. Quella, has Julius been feeding you some sort of love potion? You haven't been acting like yourself recently." Knox Ridge stood with hands on hips, looking bewilderedly at Quella. Since yesterday, her daughter had been acting strangely, and what puzzled Knox Ridge most was that Quella had started to protect Julius. This change made her especially worried. "Mom, Julius really isn't lying. Why don't you believe him?" Quella felt helpless with her unreasonably stubborn mother, but there was no other choice. After all, she was her own mother. "Mr. Radcliffe, call Dad and ask him. If you two are lying today, I won't let either of you off lightly." Smack. After speaking, she slammed the feather duster onto the coffee table. "Be gentle. You startled me." Belle Radcliffe trembled, reluctantly pulling out his phone to call Zaid Radcliffe. "Dad, did our group go out to eat today?" Belle Radcliffe asked as soon as the phone connected. "Scram!" Zaid Radcliffe roared in anger and hung up the phone directly. A meal had cost over $1 million, and he was fuming. Now Belle Radcliffe dared to call and ask about it. It was like rubbing salt into a wound. "What did Dad say?" Knox Ridge looked at the somewhat dazed Belle Radcliffe and snatched the phone from his hand. "Dad, it's Knox. I heard the company went out for a meal today." After she finished speaking, she realized that the other end of the call was very quiet. What happened? Knox Ridge looked closely and discovered that the call had been disconnected a while ago. "Mr. Radcliffe, why did Dad hang up?" "How would I know? Dad just said get lost and then he hung up." Belle Radcliffe was seething with rage. He was bullied by Knox Ridge at home and scolded by his own father over the phone, enduring frustration from both sides. Did Dad really say that? Knox Ridge sat on the sofa with furrowed brows. "No, I need to make a call and ask." The more she thought about it, the more she felt something was off. Just asking about going out for a meal shouldn't make the old man so angry. Hello, sister-in-law. Did our company go out for a meal today? Yes. We even went to Azure Percival. Knox, why didn't you and Belle come? A middle-aged woman's voice came from the other end of the phone. Belle and I had some things to take care of and just missed it. Anyway, I've got something on my hands right now, so let's not talk about it. Okay. Knox Ridge hung up the call hastily. Her brows almost knotted in frustration. How did she not know about the company going out for a meal? She and Belle Radcliffe hadn't heard any news about it, and this was even a dinner to celebrate their own daughter. A strange occurrence must have an underlying reason. The more she thought about it, the more curious she became. What's going on? They went to Azure Percival and didn't even notify us. She looked at Belle Radcliffe, but he was just as clueless as she was. Today's attendees were all high-level executives of the company. Your positions don't qualify. Julius Reed offered an answer from the doorway. The Radcliffe Group had nearly 1,000 employees, and only about 20 went today, the least of them being a department manager. Belle Radcliffe and Knox Ridge had only managed to secure minor supervisory roles in the company by virtue of their blood relations. So naturally, they were not qualified to attend such an event. Right. Me and Mr. Radcliffe. Knox Ridge nodded, feeling that it made perfect sense. But then she suddenly lifted her head, her eyes blazing with fire. Julius Reed. How dare you say I'm not fit? It was only at this moment that she reacted. Quella Radcliffe, who was just about to chuckle, held back and dared not laugh. She stole a glance at Julius Reed. How had her husband suddenly become so bold, even to talk back to Knox Ridge? In the past, he wouldn't fight back when hit, nor talk back when scolded. I'm stating the facts. Otherwise, how do you explain it? Julius Reed shrugged, answering without fear. You. Knox Ridge was so angry she was shaking all over, but she couldn't come up with a retort. Enough. We'll settle this account later. Don't delay the important matters. Belle Radcliffe glanced at his watch impatiently. We promised to be at the restaurant by 9. And what time is it now? What restaurant? Are you going out for a meal? Quella Radcliffe asked. Your Uncle Ridge's son, Radley Ridge, has returned, and he's invited our family out for dinner. It's set for 9 o'clock tonight. You should come with us. Belle Radcliffe picked up the Passat car keys from the coffee table and said to Julius Reed, You stay home for now. Episode 27. The one who lives off a woman. I'm not going. Quella Radcliffe shook her head, her complexion suddenly turning pale. I'm feeling a bit unwell today. I'm going to go back to sleep. Having said that, she headed toward her own room. Quella Radcliffe. You stop right there, Knox Ridge shouted, walking up to Quella Radcliffe, and said bitterly, Radley Ridge has just come back from abroad, and the first thing he wants to do is invite our family to dinner. Can't you be a little understanding? He invited you, not me. If you want to go, then go, but I'm not going. It was the first time Quella Radcliffe had been so stubborn. Her attitude was exceptionally firm, leaving no room for discussion. Quella Radcliffe, have your wings hardened? I'm telling you, today you will go whether you want to or not. Otherwise, get out of this house. Knox Ridge pointed toward the door and cursed. And Julius Reed, both of you get out. Quella, don't make Mum angry. Let's just go. Julius Reed, seeing the situation, didn't want Quella Radcliffe to have too much of a rift with her mom. If you want me to go, Julius comes with me. Otherwise, forget it. If you don't welcome us, I'll leave this family right now. Quella Radcliffe confronted Knox Ridge with a resolute look in her eyes. Let's go together then. Belle Radcliffe nodded, signaling Knox Ridge to compromise. Fine. You had better keep your word. Don't you dare take our car. Knox Ridge scoffed, her gaze full of disdain when looking at Julius Reed. No one give him money for a taxi. If you're so capable, walk there. Julius and I will walk. We won't take your car ever again. Quella Radcliffe looked at Knox Ridge and asked coldly, The place? Azure Wind Restaurant. Call me when you arrive. Knox Ridge glared at Julius Reed and left with Belle Radcliffe. After they left, Julius Reed turned to Quella Radcliffe and asked, What's going on? You seem really averse to this. As soon as Knox Ridge had finished speaking earlier, Quella Radcliffe had become visibly agitated. Clearly, she did not like this person known as Radley Ridge. Julius, don't be mad about what I'm about to say. Quella Radcliffe bit her lip and spoke with her head lowered. The Ridge family and our family have been longtime friends, and for years our parents have been trying to set us up. Radley Ridge went abroad to study 5 years ago and I guess he just got back today. The more she spoke, the quieter her voice became, as if she had done something to betray Julius Reed. Did you ever like him? Julius Reed asked, tilting his head. Quella Radcliffe quickly raised one hand. I swear, I absolutely never liked him. Then what do I have to be mad about? Julius Reed gently pinched her cheek and smiled. If someone's offering a meal, it would be a waste not to go jerk. You're bullying me. Quella Radcliffe had never had someone dare to pinch her face before. You're my wife. Who else would I bully but you? Julius Reed pulled her into his embrace. At that moment, Quella Radcliffe's breathing became somewhat rapid. The two had been together for 3 years, but this was their first time being so intimate. Don't think you can take advantage of me. 5 minutes later, Quella Radcliffe wriggled out of Julius Reed's arms and, with a blush, ran out of the house. Julius, aren't you jealous? Quella Radcliffe asked with a flushed face as she sat in the passenger seat. Radley Ridge inviting my parents out for dinner is definitely up to no good. I'm quite confident about my own wife. But if anyone dares to make a move on you, I'll make sure he won't even recognize his own mother after I'm done with him. Julius Reed drove the Rolls-Royce, with rock music playing in the car. This song had a history of 40 or 50 years, and back then, it was one of his favorite pieces of music. The singer had long since passed away from this world, yet he remained exactly as he had been 40 or 50 years before, without the slightest change. Radley Ridge is the typical smiling tiger. You must be careful. Quella Radcliffe whispered a warning. However, my parents liked him a lot, and as for this issue, I'm afraid she didn't finish her sentence because they both understood it clearly. Before long, a Rolls-Royce slowly pulled into the parking lot of the Azure Wind Restaurant. Azure Wind Restaurant was quite famous in River City, a high-class Western restaurant usually frequented by those with status and rich youths on dates. There happened to be a parking spot next to Belle Radcliffe's Passat, so Julius Reed parked the Rolls-Royce beside it. While they were still in the car, Knox Ridge had already sent a WeChat message, so the two of them headed straight to the second floor. The Azure Wind Restaurant had no private rooms, only standalone crystal dining tables. Thus, as soon as they reached the second floor, they saw Knox Ridge and the other 5 people. Quella Radcliffe with a shout. A young man wearing glasses stood out from the group of 5. That's Radley Ridge. Be careful, Quella Radcliffe warned in a low voice. Expend for Von, no one can take advantage of me. Julius Reed gave her a gentle smile and strode toward the table. Quella Radcliffe, it's been years, and you've gotten even more beautiful after sitting down. Radley Ridge's eyes remained fixated on Quella Radcliffe. Just now, your aunt mentioned you two came by taxi. I was about to pick you up. How can someone as delicate as you take a cab? Radley Ridge showed off his Mercedes car keys, intentionally or unintentionally. Throughout, he didn't even glance at Julius Reed. That's right. Right after our Radley came back to the country, he couldn't stop talking about seeing you. Mother Ridge looked at Quella Radcliffe as if she were looking at her daughter-in-law. You two were childhood sweethearts. It's just a pity that Radley went abroad for his studies, missing the chance. Father Ridge shook his head with a look of regret. No problem. No problem. All that matters is he's back, Knox Ridge said with a smile. As long as he's back, that's good. Upon hearing her words, Radley Ridge's eyes brightened, and the corners of his mouth lifted into a smile. Oh, Quella Radcliffe, you haven't introduced us yet. This is... Radley Ridge adjusted his glasses on the bridge of his nose and looked at Julius Reed with a mock smile. He had been particularly upset after learning that Quella Radcliffe had married. However, after finding out that their marriage was in name only, Radley Ridge hoped to rekindle the relationship. Looking at him like this, he might be Quella Radcliffe's driver, right? After all, since Quella Radcliffe became the project manager, it stands to reason that she should have a driver. Mother Ridge appraised Julius Reed with disdain and snorted lightly. Clearly, Knox Ridge had just mentioned Quella Radcliffe being promoted to project manager. Otherwise, how could Mother Ridge have known? He is my husband. Quella Radcliffe's face darkened, and she truly felt like getting up and leaving. Respectability be damned. Oh, so you are the quite famous husband of Quella Radcliffe. As soon as I returned, I heard all about you. Radley Ridge stood up, offering his hand with sheer pretense. May I ask where you work? Brother, at home. Living off my wife. Julius Reed responded with a smile, stood up, and firmly shook Radley Ridge's hand with force. Radley Ridge cried out in pain, then quickly realized he had lost his composure. Sorry, I just started feeling a bit of stomach pain. I need to use the restroom. After speaking, he turned and walked towards the bathroom. The atmosphere had become quite awkward. Although everyone had wanted to mock and ridicule Julius Reed, he had outright admitted to living off his wife. So what more could they say? Brother Snake, do me a favor once in the restroom. Radley Ridge dialed a number with a dark expression. Episode 28. Is there any wine left? After coming out of the restroom, Radley Ridge was beaming, a complete contrast to his demeanor just moments before. Sorry for that. I just returned to the country and might be having a bit of trouble adjusting. He looked at Quella Radcliffe with a hint of apology, not bothering to hide the desire in his eyes. Quella Radcliffe nodded, unconsciously leaning closer to Julius Reed. What's everyone having? Radley Ridge picked up the menu, asking aloud, Son, don't you know what Quella likes to eat? Just order her favorites. Mother Ridge winked, signaling to Radley Ridge. Exactly. You two grew up together. Do you even need to ask? Knox Ridge chimed in from the side. If it weren't for Julius Reed out of nowhere, they would have become relatives with the Ridge family long ago. Now, the more she looked at Radley Ridge, the more agreeable she found him. When she turned her attention to Julius Reed, her irritation only grew. Even a fool would understand what this dinner signified. It was almost like a trap for Julius Reed. Quella Radcliffe quietly took his hand but noticed that Julius Reed showed no signs of anger. Could it be he doesn't care about me? Quella Radcliffe quickly dismissed the thought, still moved by Julius Reed's declaration at Azure Percival, my woman. But now her husband was all smiles, which didn't seem like his style at all. Radley, now that you're back in the country, what are your plans? Knox Ridge looked at Radley Ridge with affection, as a mother-in-law would look at her son-in-law. Auntie, many foreign companies have called me, hoping that I could join them as an executive. But I'd prefer to stay in Gonzales City. A few million US dollars in annual salary doesn't mean much. It's most important to be in the same city as Quella. Having said that, Radley Ridge raised his red wine glass towards Quella Radcliffe and said, to celebrate our long-awaited reunion. Cheers, cheers. Everyone raised their glasses and drank up. Julius Reed was also all smiles, eating and drinking heartily at the side. Just a born loser. Naturally a cuck watching Julius Reed's behavior. Radley Ridge's lips curled into a cold sneer. He had been slightly apprehensive at first, but now, he was utterly brazen. Brother Reed, this wine isn't very good. Did you think Quella wouldn't notice? Julius Reed swirled his wine glass, casually saying, a bottle like this doesn't cost more than a few thousand yuan outside. Brother Reed, you're making $1 million a year, and this is the wine you celebrate with. The moment Julius Reed finished his sentence, Radley Ridge's complexion changed immediately. The wine indeed wasn't anything special, but it wasn't cheap either, costing 5,000 yuan a bottle. For ordinary people, this was already considered very expensive, but having just mentioned his $1 million salary, drinking this wine truly seemed inappropriate, especially being called out in front of Quella Radcliffe. It was a blow to his image. Sorry, that was careless of me. Radley Ridge quickly regained his smile and, with a snap of his fingers, said to the waiter, bring me 2 bottles of Petrus. The expensive one, sir. 80,000 a bottle. Are you sure? The waiter confirmed with the menu in hand. Radley Ridge nodded, a confident smile on his face. But inside, he was already bleeding money. 1,600,000. Even for him, was not a trivial amount, especially for just 2 bottles of wine. But for Quella, it was all worth it. Julius Reed, you come here to freeload and still have the nerve to criticize. Get out. Leave now. Knox Ridge's face was particularly unpleasant. Ever since she heard about Radley Ridge's $1 million salary, she had come to despise her worthless son-in-law to the bone. The Ridge family spent $1,600,000 on wine, while Julius Reed can't even earn $16. If Quella Radcliffe had married Radley Ridge, right now they could be living the high life, boasting about it no matter where they went. Why be like now, when everyone gossips behind their backs as soon as their son-in-law is mentioned? Brother Reed is right. $160,000 is nothing to me. After all, compared to Quella, money is just a worldly possession. On the surface, Radley Ridge appeared to be giving Julius Reed a way out, but in reality, he was showing off his own excellence. Soon, 2 bottles of red wine were brought to the table. But before anyone else could make a move, Julius Reed directly picked up a bottle and started chugging it like water. The server next to him was dumbfounded, staring at him as if he were a monster. Not to mention that this wine had a strong after effect. But who drinks red wine like that? Sorry, I grew up in a village as a kid. Not much sophistication. Julius Reed placed the empty bottle on the table and wiped his mouth with his sleeve. To him, the wine tasted just like water. It might be valuable in the eyes of others, but to Julius Reed, it was inferior. Once upon a time, he drank a bottle of red wine on the Atlantic Ocean. Even though it was from the 1850s, that bottle cost over $1 million at the time. Nowadays, the price would be unimaginable. How utterly disgraceful. Knox Ridge was grinding her teeth in anger. That Julius Reed, he came just to embarrass them. Father Ridge and Mother Ridge also looked at Julius Reed with disdain, thinking very little of this country bumpkin. No worries. I suppose Brother Reed hardly gets the chance to drink such wine. I won't mind. A sneer crept onto Radley Ridge's lips. The more the other acted this way, the happier he was. Although it was a bit painful, it might make Quella realize how inept her husband was and how excellent he was in comparison. Taking advantage of no one paying attention, Julius Reed discreetly pinched Quella's thigh and typed out 2 characters on his phone. Scold me. Quella was taken aback at first, but she quickly understood that Julius Reed wanted her to act. Can't you have a little dignity? How many times have I told you? Have some restraint. Look at Radley Ridge. He's so much better than you, Quella said with a very unfriendly tone, her face stern. It's alright. Brother 12 is just inexperienced in the world, but he's honest, and that's a quality too. Radley Ridge was inwardly overjoyed. Now that Quella spoke like this, he felt he had a great chance. Well, Radley, have another drink with Quella. Knox Ridge, seeing Quella's change of attitude, thought her daughter had come around and eagerly struck while the iron was hot. Before coming here, she had been worried that Quella was too stubborn and would miss out on an outstanding man like Radley Ridge, but it seemed her worries were unfounded. Always scolding me. Keep it up, and I'll divorce you. Julius Reed grabbed the other bottle of red wine, lifted it, and downed it in one go. The server standing by was flabbergasted. $160,000. Gone in 2 gulps. Divorce then. Divorce. You think I'm scared? Quella slammed her hand on the table violently, startling even Julius Reed. His wife was so convincing in her act. He decided that he should let Quella pursue acting in the film industry. She'd definitely become a star. Quella, don't say things in anger. Brother Reed still loves you. Although Radley Ridge tried his best to hide it, he couldn't help laughing. It was as if heaven was helping him. Brother Ridge, got any more wine? Julius Reed leaned back in his chair, looking utterly defeated. Episode 29. Drinking. Yes, of course there is. Although Radley Ridge felt the pinch, he knew today was a good opportunity. As long as he got Julius Reed drunk, their conflicts would be thoroughly intensified. Because alcohol makes people violent, it forces them to spill all the words they've been holding back. Julius Reed had endured a lot at the Radcliffe family over the past 3 years, and judging by today's events, it seemed he was about to explode. Waiter, bring another. 3 bottles. Radley Ridge hardened his heart, thinking no pain, no gain. This isn't just talk. 3 years. All I've had since marrying you is hardship and toil. Other women are out shopping and buying purses every day, and me, I have to carry the weight of this household on my shoulders. As Quella Radcliffe said this, she couldn't help but cry out in grievance. Julius Reed's heart tightened. Her acting skills, how had they become so masterful? To tell you the truth, I've wanted a divorce for a long time. What can you even provide me? If you had even 1,000th of what Radley Ridge has, I wouldn't be this upset. He earns $1 million a year, driving a Mercedes. Quella Radcliffe took the tissue Radley Ridge handed her, wiping her tears as she lamented. And you, riding in a taxi is all we can manage together. Have you taken me to the movies once in the 3 years we've been married? Have you ever gone shopping with me? You bastard. You're inhuman. Having said so, Quella Radcliffe pounded fiercely a few times against Julius Reed's chest. The more Julius Reed listened, the more he felt something was off. Quella Radcliffe had her own motives, seizing the opportunity to berate him. Wait until we get back. I'll show you. Although he thought this, he yelled, get lost. I've been sick of the sight of you for a long time. 3 years of marriage, and you won't even let me touch you. I'm so done with this marriage in name only. Who do you think you are? Even the women under the bridge who charge $30 are better than you. If I had the money, I'd rather live under that bridge. Julius Reed pretended to be drunk. His speech slurred. Seeing the escalating argument, Bill Radcliffe was about to stand up when Knox Ridge stopped him. Let them fight it out. Once they're done, Radley will be our son-in-law. After hearing his wife's explanation, Bill Radcliffe suddenly understood. The parents of Radley Ridge also hid their smiles behind pursed lips, pleased to witness the turmoil. The happiest among them was Radley Ridge himself. Everything he had heard about them was true. The marriage between Quella Radcliffe and Julius Reed existed in name only. Though married for 3 years, she remained a virgin. Brother Reed, you're too drunk. How can you say such things? Quella Radcliffe is the most outstanding woman in the world. The line of guys chasing after her was endless. If you don't cherish her, I might just step in. Although Radley Ridge said this while persuading him to drink, he pushed 3 bottles of Petrus toward Julius Reed, and the words he spoke were truly from his heart. You like her? Then marry her. Julius Reed was unapologetic as he lifted a bottle of Petrus and finished it in one go. After 3 bottles of red wine, his face reddened as well. Yet 2 more bottles remained on the table. I've known all along she has you in her heart. She's called out your name more than once in her sleep. Now, tell me, what kind of a pathetic husband does that make me? Julius Reed pounded his chest, his face etched with endless pain. So what if I called his name? He is an overseas returnee, earning $1 million a year. What do you have? I'll tell you the truth. From the beginning, I used you as a shield, waiting all along for Radley Ridge to come back. The more Quella Radcliffe shouted, the angrier she got. This time, she was truly furious. She never talked in her sleep. That bastard dared to accuse her of calling out someone else's name. You bastard! Quella Radcliffe fiercely twisted Julius Reed's arm. The force of her twist was so strong that it was distressing for Radley Ridge to watch. Yet inside, he was extremely excited. Quella Radcliffe had called his name in her sleep, not just once. Radley Ridge took a deep breath, trying hard to calm himself. Happiness came too suddenly. Brother Reed, drink up. He felt that the $400,000 wine was worth every penny. Not only did it fuel their dispute, but it also paved the way for his own fortune. At this moment, Radley Ridge was already fantasizing about the scene of winning the beauty's heart. Furthermore, he had even called for Flower Snake, preparing to stage a hero saving the beauty act shortly to make Julius Reed look even more pathetic, showcasing his own abilities. Brother Reed, you're a good man. Julius Reed picked up the red wine and guzzled it down. These past 3 years, I've lived worse than a dog. To hell with being the unwanted son-in-law. Starting tomorrow, I want to be free. Julius Reed's eyes were blurry, and he seemed to be somewhat drunk. If it's hard, drink some more. Radley Ridge looked at Quella Radcliffe, saying joyfully, I didn't expect that after so many years, you would still have me in your heart. A few years ago, before he went abroad to study, he had pursued Quella Radcliffe, but he had been gently rejected. This time, when he returned to the country, he had not held much hope. Yet who could have known that today he would have an unexpected joy? Knox Ridge was even more smug. Mr. Radcliffe, if you hadn't let Julius Reed come, could this have gone so smoothly? This bastard is really asking for it. I was still worried Quella Radcliffe might have a soft spot for him, but with today's commotion, it has completely exposed his worthless nature. Wife, you're really brilliant. Bill Radcliffe raised his thumb, full of admiration in his eyes. If they could have a son-in-law like Radley Ridge, they would wake up laughing from their dreams. However, what the couple didn't know was that compared to Julius Reed, Radley Ridge was like a speck of dust in the universe. Brother, is there any more wine? Julius Reed shouted after drinking the last bottle of wine. You're this drunk. Go home right now. Don't embarrass yourself here. The 2 things I hate most in my life are worthless men and drunks. And you happen to be the worst of both. Quella Radcliffe yelled. Now she understood that her husband was planning on swindling Radley Ridge out of a fortune. She wanted to laugh but could only hold it in while she had to display anger on her face. No problem. If Brother Reed wants to drink, I, Yannick Ridge, will take care of. Radley Ridge steeled his heart and shouted to the waiter, bring me 3 more bottles. Radley, that's $80,000 a bottle. Mother Ridge reminded softly from the side. 8 bottles were 640,000. No small sum. Even with an annual salary of $1 million. This meal would consume half a year's wages. No problem. Money, to me, is just a number. Radley Ridge interrupted his mother, telling the waiter, bring them immediately. It pained him as well. But if it could escalate the conflict between the two to the point of divorce, it was absolutely worth it. Radley Ridge was now in painful joy. Look at Radley Ridge over there, spending hundreds of thousands as if they were nothing. Why should I have to suffer with you? Quella Radcliffe continued to praise from the side, making Radley Ridge's hormones surge. Excuse me, I need to use the restroom just then. Radley Ridge's phone vibrated. Flower Snake had arrived. You guys keep eating. I'll be right back. After saying that, he headed towards the restroom. Before leaving, Radley Ridge gave Julius Reed a look. You drank my hundreds of thousands. Now wait for your suffering. When Flower Snake makes a move, nothing good happens. Radley Ridge had barely left when Flower Snake entered from behind. He was carrying a glass of red wine, pretending to walk casually past Julius Reed. As he walked over Julius Reed's head, Flower Snake tilted the glass slightly. Episode 30, Acting Gone Wrong. The Flower Snake's actions were utterly natural, betraying no hint of premeditation. According to the original plan, once the red wine was spilled on Julius Reed's head, a conflict would inevitably ensue. The Flower Snake's few underlings were right behind him, ready to take action should a conflict occur. At that moment, Radley Ridge would step in as the mediator, demanding Julius Reed to bow and apologize. The script was written perfectly, ensuring not only the humiliation of Julius Reed but also an opportunity for the Flower Snake to showcase his strength to Quella Radcliffe. However, at the very instant the wine glass left his hand, Julius Reed, who appeared almost comatose from drunkenness, suddenly opened his eyes. He shifted slightly, his right hand shooting out. The red wine glass, mere centimeters from his head, was now firmly grasped in Julius Reed's hand. Bro, sorry about that. The glass slipped, Flower Snake said with an awkward smile. Yet, as he looked at the back of Julius Reed, he couldn't shake the feeling of familiarity, though he couldn't pinpoint where he had seen him before. But the mere skill with which the glass was caught forced the Flower Snake to take note. The information from Radley Ridge was flawed. The man was a practitioner. Flower Snake made a signal behind his back, and several underlings lurking in the restaurant immediately surrounded them. No worries. Thanks for the wine, Julius Reed said, shaking the wine glass and taking a light sip. PFFT the next second. All the red wine in his mouth sprayed onto Flower Snake's face. This is a bit unpleasant to drink. My apologies, said Julius Reed as he turned around, his face full of mockery. You're fucking asking for it. The underlings charged forward, their eyes full of menace. They had been instructed to strike first in the event of a conflict. Fuck you today. Flower Snake had dominated this area for years, and no one had ever dared to cause trouble here. But when he clearly saw Julius Reed's face, a shiver ran through him. The words on the tip of his tongue were abruptly swallowed back. The events that had unfolded that afternoon at Azure Percival were something Flower Snake would never forget, even if he turned to ashes. In an instant, Flower Snake's mind went blank. What's going on? The sudden turn of events left the four elders somewhat dazed. You hoodlums, stop causing trouble here. Father Ridge, a businessman, intended to suppress the hooligans with his words. Radley Ridge's arrangement with Flower Snake to play act was something Father Ridge was unaware of. That's right. Stop your hooliganism here. Seeing Father Ridge speak up, Knox Ridge also chimed in from the side. With Radley Ridge present, everyone felt very confident. The hoodlums had their orders, ignoring everyone else and focusing solely on hitting Julius Reed. No matter what anyone else said, they just had to focus on hitting Julius Reed. They ignored everyone else and rolled up their sleeves, heading toward Julius Reed. Radley Ridge, hiding in the restroom, watched everything quietly from a distance. He would intervene only once Julius Reed had been sufficiently beaten. Flower Snake was a brother of his friend, and the two had met over drinks after Flower Snake returned to the country. Radley Ridge had not expected that Flower Snake would be of use so soon. The thought of Julius Reed begging on his knees after the beating brought a sneaky thrill to Radley Ridge's heart. Flower Snake knew he had caused a huge trouble. Ever since that afternoon's incident, his heart still hadn't settled. However, his gang of hoodlums had no clue about the situation. You're fucking asking for it. Dare to spray our brother? We're going to dismantle you today. I really want to see just how capable you are. Before the man could finish, Flower Snake violently grabbed his arm from behind, hurling him away. Brother Smack. Another hoodlum hadn't even comprehended what was happening when he too was slapped away by Flower Snake. Bro, what's this about? Everyone was stupefied. Flower Snake's response completely exceeded their expectations. Flower Snake couldn't care less about that. He stood before Julius Reed like a child who had done wrong, his legs trembling uncontrollably. Offending a friend of Aaron Jackson meant that even 10 lives wouldn't be enough to save him. Know what to do now? Julius Reed casually fiddled with the wine glass on the table, asking in a nonchalant manner. Got it? Flower Snake kept nodding, cursing Radley Ridge countless times in his heart. This son of a bitch. He's trying to get me killed. What are you two whispering about? Sure enough, none of you are any good. Father Ridge, seeing Julius speaking in low tones, assumed the two knew each other. He despised these uneducated hoodlums the most and didn't hide his disdain in his tone. What the fuck did you just say? Flower Snake's eyes widened as he grabbed Father Ridge by the collar with one hand. I'm warning you. This is a restaurant. Mother Ridge was sufficiently scared by this sudden turn of events. As Business-people, they were not accustomed to such things and panicked instantly. Exactly. We've called the police. Although Father Ridge was trembling with fear, he still talked tough. Then tried. Flower Snake grabbed a fork from the table and pressed it against Father Ridge's throat. Don't mess around. We'll give you anything you want. Mother Ridge, seeing the other party with a knife, panicked and didn't know what to do. She instinctively opened her purse and took out a stack of money. We'll give you money. Just let him go first. These days, it was all about the money, and she didn't want her husband to be harmed in any way. Take your damn money and get lost. Flower Snake slapped the cash out of Mother Ridge's hand, scattering it into the air. His eyes shifted as if he had a great idea. Wasn't Radley Ridge trying to make things difficult for Julius? He could turn the tables and give Radley a taste of his own medicine. If Julius was pleased, he might suffer less. Thinking of this, without more ado, he backhanded Father Ridge across the face. Smack. In the crisp sound, Father Ridge was sent sprawling across the aisle of the restaurant. Flower Snake pulled out all the stops to show off in front of Julius. Boss, there's a fight here. Mother Ridge quickly stood up and ran over to check on Father Ridge's injuries. Due to the heavy blow, one side of Father Ridge's face was completely swollen, and his mouth was oozing blood. What's going on here? The restaurant manager arrived with several security guards. This man here, he's assaulted my husband and caused serious injury right in your restaurant. You need to give me an explanation today. Mother Ridge saw the security coming and immediately became very assertive. If you don't give me an explanation today, wait for your restaurant to be shut down. They were considered upper class, with assets worth tens of millions at home, used to bossing people around. They had never faced such a situation before. Yeah, what's going on with this restaurant? Letting in any kind of people. Seeing Mother Ridge lose her temper, Knox Ridge joined in to stir things up. Fatso Declan, if you don't want trouble, you better stay the hell away from me. Flower Snake waved his hand, and his cronies immediately moved in. I'll explain this to your boss, he said. Brother Snake, this. Declan Martin stood there, not sure what to do next. The restaurant owner and Flower Snake had some relationship, so he was in a difficult position standing there. What's wrong with you? I'm going to file a complaint. Mother Ridge saw that the security guards didn't move and immediately flew into a rage. Sis, don't worry. I'll get justice for you. Knox Ridge patted her chest, stood up, and was about to argue with Declan Martin. But, smack, before she could speak, Flower Snake, in front of the security guards, slapped Mother Ridge to the ground. And in his eyes, there was a full intent to kill. Ignorant fools.